Anyways, just in case this is gonna end up being a video, we'll do it like this. So guys, with the results of the ATGCS coming to a close here, here we have the breakdown for the actual event, and it looks like a vast majority of players didn't really know what to play going into this. A lot of them had sent me deck lists going into this event where they would have to change it up, and it's completely understandable as it is live legal. So not everything was as defined as we thought it would be. Seeing as it is, we have 30% of the player base on other category, and when we say other, we had random things like Ice Barrier, we had Dark World, we had some crazy Sky Courage shenanigans going on in there. It was just a plethora of different deck lists that we saw. Overtaking the secondary spot, which is arguably the most important one here, as it had the largest actual representation of a singular deck, was Tri-Brigade Zoo. And as you already know, the release of Bear Broom has made this deck far more consistent than it has ever seen before. Being able to access a boss monster who can banish on summon or banish at any point in the time if another beast, winged beast or beast warrior type monster is summoned to the field. Keep in mind this is a once per turn clause. I'm not just saying you can do it at any time. It is actually quite strong, and then also getting more utility off of the monsters that you use for those summons, such as pitching another monster to the graveyard, deck thinning, and searching as well with Nerval, of course. Seeing this, it was actually quite exciting. We saw very many matches where it would just end up on like a singular monster pass and the traps would just win the game. Alternatively though, we did see that not many other people who made it into top 16 were on a bunch of traps. They were actually on hand traps. We saw decks with like 14 to 16 hand traps, and actually caused quite a ruckus within top 16. I think even getting into top 4 placement with barely any traps. We were actually less stumped when we were watching the event live. We thought that there would be more traps activated. Once we saw the deck list of each player and actually analyzed it through and through, we saw that there was just hand traps and 3 revolt. It was kind of crazy. So I guess some people will be leaning towards that path, and I can understand it, being as Drytron has re-entered the meta. Drone Lock is such a damn strong card that why not play it in the main deck. Speaking of Drytron, we have it going as the second highest represented list here, and it did actually win the event. It got first place with a 2-1 victory over over our Tri-Brigade friend here. But seeing as that it was Herald of Perfection just kind of wins out games when you have 4 negates, it's kind of crazy. It was much more of a grind match, considering that they didn't really have they didn't have access to their rituals as much as we thought. It was very slow paced, and Tri-Brigade just didn't have the gas to keep up with them. Next was actually quite of a shocker to me. I didn't think we would have this much representation of ATGCS, but I guess seeing as the main boss monster of the deck is a 6k towers that you can't really just swing over at any point in time unless you're making an access code with like 4 materials, or maybe even Boral Sword if you have it in the deck. It's just kind of crazy to out. Seeing that they also have a searchable floodgate was kind of nice. They can't link summon more than once per turn is a very strong clause, especially if you're trying to go for that Boral Sword play, or even access code if you really have to waste like a 4 material monster to go into the access code. Next up we had Scraptor Dino. Scraptor Dino was highly represented as well, pretty much the same exact representation as ATGCS, and did arguably better. Overall, I don't believe we saw any in top 16 if I'm not mistaken. I would have to relook that over. But Scraptor Dino seemed to have done a lot of things this tournament. We saw it perform with the FTK build. We saw it with the actual Scraptor build itself. it was just kind of all over the place. It's not like a singular defined version of the deck has been yet to release, but I guess we'll see as it goes. Following this, we had Zodiac variants. Of course, the Zodiac engine is always going to be as strong as it was, having access to that Zeus pretty much almost every other turn. It's still kind of nice. One of the Zodiac versions was Eldritch Zodiac, which we actually didn't see it go too far, but it was fairly standard. I think we will see a reemergence of Eldritch decks or slow decks that play traps because of how Tri-Zoo plays. They want to actively play on your turn, so that gives you some leeway to set up. Following this, we had Zephyra Metapose. So we had two players on Zephyra, and actually one of them made it into top 16, who obviously exceeded my expectations, seeing as that the deck, I had no knowledge of the deck actually making it into top 16. It was actually kind of crazy. I don't really have too much to say on the deck itself. It was just something that you would have to watch in action to kind of get an understanding of. We will probably be showing a deck list later of that, just so you can see what they played, what ratios they opted for. Interestingly enough, it was a 54 card variant at top. It wasn't even 60. Quite an odd number, I know, but it worked for him, so congrats there. Following this, we have double Ogdotic combo. So there was one version with Alistair and friends, of course, and then we had a Chaos version. Not too much to say here. I didn't really get to see too much of their play. It was just kind of mediocre from what I saw. Following this, we have PK Fire, two lists that were extremely intriguing to me. We had one of them who was on an Ophion build. When I saw the Ophion drop, my mind just went fucking blank. I was like, holy shit. People are playing Evil Swarm Ophion and setting Infestation to protect it was just kind of insane to me. And it worked out really well. I really enjoyed watching that match. If you want to see that match, I don't believe I will be posting it on YouTube, but I definitely have the VOD still up within Twitch. So if you want to see it, I'll put it in the category. I'll try to break down each match or the matches that we watched so you can view them there. After this, we have two Madolche players. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to see too much of this play out, but we had one variant on the Dimension Shifter build. Of course, it's self-explanatory. They don't really go to grave all that often, and seeing any form of Dimension Shifter or Macrocosmos is just kind of insane. Lastly, we have the two decks that also made it into Top Cut at one apiece. There was actually one of each in the tournament. So we didn't really get to see too many invoked variants in this entire event. I think we saw a total of 3. And one of the weirder builds, in my opinion, was 60 card Go Second Invoked, which made it into top 16 and I believe top 8 at that. It was just insane to see Kaijus plus like massive disruption for your turn whenever it came along. You played Going Second with Luna. I was kind of just shocked overall. I thought it was going to be something completely different, like a Dragoon Turbo deck, which in essence it kind of was. They did play triple Insights with the triple Red Eye Fusion, but more on that later. Following this, we had one of the better decks that I really wish I got to see in top 4. Unfortunately, we were watching the finals match while 3rd and 4th were playing it out, and it happened to be Code Talkers. So I've been hyping this deck up for quite some time, even before Coder started playing the list, and after Coder started playing the list, I just got even more invested into this. Seeing this deck is just a masterpiece on its own. I still think the Yuling strategy is insane, and they can definitely outplay their opponent quite heavily with things like Iblis, so your opponent can't Gamma you or even Nibiru you. It's practically somewhat hand trap proof if you do it the correct way. You have different lines of play. You have Microcoder being able to search your codec if you don't open it. It's just a nutty deck all in general. And for a deck as cheap as it is, it's something definitely worth investing in since Heat Soul hasn't even been released. And that pretty much wraps it up for the entirety of the event. There was 62 total people who participated. I think it would have been about 67 people who registered, but 5 had to drop immediately. One of them was the runner-up of the last tournament that we ran, which is Big Pimp and 12. If you guys don't know him, go follow him on Twitch. He's a pretty badass dude. And we want to give a generous shout out to Mega Capital G for, of course, advertising the event on his YouTube channel. So I greatly appreciate that. That really it means a lot to me. It definitely does help the tournament and helps build this little community that we're trying to do. So if you like all this and you want more, join our Discord. If you're in chat right now, because this is live, it is !Discord. And if you're new to the YouTube channel, if I do post this on YouTube, the link will be in the description for you guys. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this. Thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it.